So, you're thinking about a project for your home here in Tampa Bay. And I bet the very first question that pops into your head is, what's this actually going to cost per square foot? I get it. It's the number one question we hear. And you go online and the answers are just all over the map. It's confusing. So today we're going to cut right through all that noise and give you some real, honest numbers. Look, my goal here is super simple. I just want to give you a clear, realistic idea of what things cost right here in the Tampa Bay area. It doesn't matter if you're thinking about renovating, putting on an addition, or maybe even building a new home from the ground up. By the time we're done, you're going to feel a whole lot more confident about planning your project. All right, so here's the game plan. We're going to talk about renovation costs, then home addition costs, and of course, new construction. After that, we'll get into what really drives those prices up here in Florida. And stick around for the end because we're going to talk about the most important thing. Why just looking at a square foot price? Well, it's really only the first step. Okay, let's jump right in with renovations. Now, this is where the costs can really, and I mean really, swing wildly. And it makes sense, right? A simple cosmetic facelift is a totally different animal than, say, knocking down walls and completely changing the layout of your home. So we can kind of break renovations down into three levels. First, you've got your light cosmetic stuff. Think new paint, maybe some new flooring, updating fixtures. You're probably looking at somewhere between $120 and $200 a square foot for that. Now, if you step it up to a mid-level remodel, like redoing a whole kitchen or bathroom, the price bumps up to that $200 to $350 range. This is usually where you start needing permits, too. And then you've got the major structural projects. We're talking removing walls, a full gut job. The complexity just skyrockets, and the price follows, landing you anywhere from $350 to $600 a square foot or even more. Because now you're dealing with some serious engineering and a whole different level of permitting. All right, moving on to home additions. Now, this is where things get even more complex, and that cost per square foot number, it definitely starts to climb. And you might be asking, why is that? Well, think about it. You're not just remodeling inside 4 existing walls anymore. You're literally building a small house from the ground up. Foundation, framing, roof, everything. And then you have to perfectly stitch it onto your current home. So you can see how this plays out in the numbers. A standard room addition, like a family room, is going to start around $300 to $400 a square foot. But the moment you add a kitchen or a master suite with all that complex plumbing and electrical work, you're jumping up into the $350 to $550 plus range. And the king of complexity? A second story addition. That's a whole other level, often starting at $450, maybe even $650 a square foot, because you're engineering a structure to hold up an entire new floor. And that's really the heart of it, the why behind the cost. Every single addition needs a new foundation poured, new walls framed, a new roof line that has to be perfectly integrated. Plus, you've got to extend your HVAC, your plumbing, your electrical. Like I said, it's basically a small-scale new build that's attached right onto your house. Which is a perfect segue into building a brand new home from scratch. If building a custom home here in Florida is your dream, there are 2 things that are going to have the biggest impact on your final cost: how custom the design is and the quality of the finishes you pick out. You can really see the whole spectrum of costs here. So on one end, you've got your production homes. These are more budget-friendly, usually landing in that $250 to $350 per square foot range, mainly because the builders are using standardized plans over and over. Then you step up to a true custom home, one that's designed from the ground up just for you. That's typically going to run you between $350 and $500. And then, at the very top, you have luxury custom homes. We're talking unique architecture, top-of-the-line everything, and the price can easily hit $500 to $800 a square foot, sometimes even more. So a question I get all the time is, man, why are construction prices so high and why do they vary so much, especially down here in Florida? And it's a great question. The truth is, it's not just one single thing. It's really a perfect storm of a few key factors that affect every single project budget in the state. There are really 4 big drivers we have to deal with in Florida. First up is labor. There is a huge demand for skilled construction workers and, frankly, a shortage of them. That drives labor costs up. Second, materials. You've seen it, I've seen it. The prices for things like lumber, windows, and roofing can be a roller coaster thanks to supply chain headaches. Third, and this one is huge for Florida, is engineering. Our building codes are no joke. They require serious engineering to make sure homes can stand up to hurricane-force winds. That adds a whole layer of cost you just don't see in many other states. And finally, permits and inspections.
Just navigating the local government process adds time, paperwork, and, you guessed it, more expense to every project. Okay, if you take away only one thing from our chat today, please let it be this. That cost per square foot number, it's a fantastic tool for getting a rough ballpark idea of your budget. But you have to remember, it is only a starting point. It never ever tells the whole story.
This really puts it in perspective. Just picture two different homes, both exactly 2,000 square feet. The first one is a simple rectangle, a box, with builder-grade finishes. The second one has all these complex roof lines, high ceilings, and high-end luxury finishes throughout. They're the exact same size, but their final price tags are going to be worlds apart. And the reason for that huge difference? It all comes down to complexity and finishes. You see, a simple square foot price can't see any of that stuff. It doesn't know about the complex structural work, or if your property has weird soil conditions, or that you want imported Italian marble countertops. That's exactly why you have to get an experienced builder to look at your actual plans to give you a price you can really count on. Look, at the end of the day, knowing these cost ranges is all about giving you the power to set realistic goals and a realistic budget. It doesn't matter if it's a small remodel or a massive custom home, the single most important step you can take is getting into careful, detailed planning with a professional right from the get-go. So, with all that said, if you're here in the Tampa Bay area and you're thinking about a major renovation, an addition, or maybe a new custom home, let's have a conversation. Getting that professional advice early on is without a doubt the best way to avoid nasty surprises down the road and make sure your project is a huge success. Our team here at Construction Corp, this is